I'm excited today because Deanne Melnick from the DC metro area is going to join me and really share her story and inspire you guys on how to build a business, how to build a thriving real estate business that you can love too.
When you realize that the meat of real estate is based on people and their lives, as opposed to whatever the market is doing or interest rates or days on market, none of that stuff matters to a buyer.
Welcome to Unstoppable Agents. I'm your host, Brian White. I'm a local North Texas realtor, associate broker, and team leader with EXP Realty. Unstoppable Agents is the show that real estate agents come to build an unstoppable business, unstoppable wealth, and a life of unstoppable impact. This is going to be a lot of fun. We interview amazing agents to get deep insights on what makes them tick and what makes them successful. Today, Deanne Melnick is going to join us. Deanne, thanks for joining me.
Hi there.
Hi.
Thanks for having me on, Brian. Nice to meet you virtually here.
Yeah, you too. You too. Glad to have you. So you were just telling me that you just celebrated your first year anniversary at EXP. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. I just celebrated my first year, December 1st, and just hit Icon right before that, which was my huge goal for my first year.
Well, that's a big deal because there's nearly 90,000 agents at EXP, and you're in the top 2%. Congratulations on being at the top, and that's why you're here. Because we want to learn from you. We know you're the expert and you've built an amazing business. We're excited to hear from you today.
Thanks. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in real estate. I've been licensed now for almost 20 years. Next year will be 20 years for me. And just seeing my career grow and really turn into something that's been wonderful for my family and for myself, it's just been great.
That's awesome. So I want to hear that story. You don't look old enough to have been licensed for 20 years. So good for you. Congratulations on all of that. And how'd you get started?
Real estate for me was actually an accident. I never intended to go down this path, but when I went to college, I thought I was going to do pre-law. I actually thought I wanted to be a sports agent. That was my goal. And then when I graduated college,
Jerry Maguire.
Yes.
Jerry Maguire get you? Okay. Okay, perfect.
I actually have always loved sports, and I loved it even before that movie came out, but that movie actually really did inspire excitement about the business for me. And when I started working for a sports agent right out of college, I realized there was a lot of parts of the business that I really did not enjoy. And what I did love was working on endorsement contracts and things like that for our clients. I helped people, book their travel for the Pro Bowl. I helped them organize endorsement deals with local businesses and national businesses like Disney World and local LASIK surgery centers and things like that. And I really enjoyed the negotiation piece, the give and take of finding out a solution for everyone. And when I left that job, I actually got an opportunity to work for a builder. A friend of mine had just started working for a builder and said, "Hey, we have an opening. We're hiring. I think you'd be great at it." And I thought I would just do it for a little bit and see until I figured out my next move. And I found that I really loved it. And while I didn't get to do the piece of negotiation really so much working for a builder, I did find that piece of the business was helping clients and helping them find home. And that was really amazing to me. So I was like, why don't I take the piece of this that I love and then the piece of my previous job that I loved and get my real estate license? And so that's what I did.
That's awesome. Now, is there somebody who was recruiting you, like who met with you when you were a builder and said, "Dang, you would absolutely just be an amazing real estate agent"?
Yes.
Would somebody kind of talked you into it and kind of led you down that path?
Yeah, so I actually started my career in Austin, Texas. So I'm a Texas girl as well. I've been in DC cumulatively 10 years now. And when I worked for the builder, I was in a suburb of Austin, and I had one agent that continually brought me business. So he would bring clients once every few months, someone that would be the right fit for our community. And he just really enjoyed working with me. I enjoyed working with him. And he was constantly on me about just get your license. Because and what I found and what eventually led me to that was I found that there was a lot of people that I had built relationships with in our community, but their friends and family weren't necessarily looking for that particular product in that particular area. Getting my license, I was able to take those relationships and help their referrals.
That's great. So, where was your first stop in real estate?
So I actually worked for a family-owned exit franchise in Austin.
Yeah.
So I had some familiarity with the piece of revenue sharing or profit sharing or that type of model. Not exactly obviously what EXP does, but just a little taste of it to begin with. And what I found though was when I moved to DC in 2005, I worked for a different exit franchise, and I found that there were vast differences from office to office. And what I loved about my office in Austin was non-existent in my office in DC. I actually ended up moving completely from the franchise model and worked for a couple of different independent companies. I moved back to Texas, lived in Dallas, worked for a big indie there, and then moved back to DC in 2017 and worked for an independent brokerage here before I found EXP. Little detour.
That's okay though. It's the journey, not the end. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your business. Like, where does your business come from today? Are you a repeat and referral girl? Do you convert Zillow leads? Like, what's your lead generation strategy?
A little bit of everything, honestly. I do have quite a big business now of repeat referral. I've been in the DC metro area again now for about 5 years. I had, like I said, lived here, moved back to Texas, and then moved back. So when I left DC the first time, I said, I'm never coming back here. I let my licenses expire. I was done with this area. And I didn't really keep in touch with a ton of people here because DC is a really transient market. And a lot of my clients had moved on even to other states. So it was a lot of in and out. And when I moved back here, obviously I regretted that because I had a lot of people that sold their house the year before I moved back. But what I found was that building those relationships was a piece of my business. So repeat and referral, of course. But then a second piece that I think is huge is a relocation business. Because I recognize that DC is such a transient market, I do probably about 30% of my business each year from agent to agent referrals. So other agents in other states sending their clients to me. And that was actually one of the things that really appealed to me about EXP. When you work for a small independent company, you don't have a network like that. So you don't have, I had built relationships with people over the years, being in the business so long, but truly having a brand that's so cohesive from state to state was something I was lacking. And I technically still have my license in Texas, although it's inactive right now, but I'm licensed in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So the relocation piece, when people come to our area, they often don't know where they're going to end up. So they may have a job in DC, but living in the district might not be the right fit for them. So we have going through that process with people. I found, since I had done it myself twice, I am good at it. So relocation is a big part of my business.
Well, and that's a great way that you can serve your clients and that you don't really care where they land. So wherever it is that's going to be the best fit for them, for traffic, for amenities, for schools, for whatever it is, where they're working is going to be a great fit. So EXP is one brokerage globally, one brokerage nationally, and now we're in, I think, 26 countries. But how are you able to leverage that national network for relocation and for referrals?
So obviously you're familiar, maybe other people watching this aren't, but there's a Facebook sort of group called Workplace where we have referral boards, and a lot of times I'll get mentioned on there by other people. I just am getting into the company, and I don't know if you know this, but I had a baby this year. So my year of travel and real estate conferences was cut to a little bit of a minimum, but I do plan to go to things like EXPCon and shareholders and things like that moving forward so that I can continue networking with other EXP agents. I've built my business in the past of referrals I'm a CRS, so I'm a certified residential specialist. I've networked with other people that have that designation. I've been to conferences like Inman and things that are brokerage agnostic. So I definitely see the value in meeting people from other places. And I think having that network within the brokerage that you're a part of is even stronger because you have those relationships with people that have a similar business as you, they have a similar mindset as you, and those transitions are so smooth because you have someone that's very similar to you that's sending you business. And oftentimes it's one of their repeater referral clients that's moving. It's a lot of referrals that I get from EXP agents specifically are clients that they have helped into a home that they're now selling and relocating to our area. So they have an experience that they're used to and love, and they want that same kind of experience moving forward.
And the person referring them has a vested interest. It's not just like a lead that they weren't able to serve. It's somebody they have a relationship with, and and they're literally putting they're transferring their reputation to you. So if you don't do a great job, then they're like, that was on me, and you took me. And I think it's great. You mentioned. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say one thing with that I really pride myself on is I find that referrals can be challenging because a lot of times you'll send someone to someone else, and if you don't have a good relationship with that agent, you may never hear what happens with that client. And then you find out later that they ended up working with someone else, or things can fall apart so easily. And I really try to make sure that my referring agents are kept in the loop, and that communication, just based on our common brokerage and common mindset, is huge. So I find that when people send people to me, they know what's happening with them.
That's good. We really, and that's so very smart and such good advice for everybody watching, is you should treat your referring agents just like a client. Communicate with them. I mean, think about in a buyer's transaction, we've all worked with lenders who do an amazing job of communicating every step of the process. And then we worked with mortgage lenders who, like a big black hole, you're like, hey, we're closing. Wait, what happened? If you think about the experience of a referring agent, if you sent somebody a referral and they kept you up to date every step of the way, you're like, man, they're taking great care of my people. If I ever get anybody else, I'm sending them to Deanne because she's going to kill it. That's really smart.
And not just with them, because if you think about it, like the chances that each agent you work with would have multiple clients moving to a certain area, it's not always the case. But what I've been able to do is that because I've built good relationships with one particular agent on one particular transaction, they've spread the word to other agents in their office or other agents in their brokerage. And being with a big company like EXP on these things like Workplace or other message boards where you have a presence, people are stepping up for you. So it's not you raising your hand and saying, hey, I can help you in DC. It's 3 or 4 other people saying, hey, Deanne took great care of my buyers when they moved there, or Deanne took great care of my sellers that are moving to my area. So that to me is a huge benefit to working at
Well, you said something else that I think is super insightful is people go to conferences, and whether it's your brokerage conference or Inman or sales, Sales Academy stuff, Tom Ferry, any of those kinds of things, and you think that the meat is on the stage.
Yeah.
And you're going for the content, and don't get me wrong, depending on the conference, there could be some great content, but the meat is at the bar.
Yeah.
Right. The meat is, and skip the session and go talk to the people that are hanging out, or schedule time with, really winning is scheduling time with the speakers at other times during the conference.
Yeah.
But you build some great relationships with people that yield long-term. One of our best referral partners, they're out of Orlando, and we met them at a EXP con like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And they've been an amazing relationship. We just continue to see them at every conference, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, I've had that. I actually met a girl in 2009, I believe, at Inman in New York. And ironically, she was a friend of a friend. I had never met her before, but we ended up sharing a room together because my friend knew her. We all just split a room because that was back in my early days of real estate, and New York hotels are expensive.
Yeah.
But we formed a relationship, and now that's 10 years, 12 years later. I've done so much business as a result of knowing her, because she's in kind of a adjacent market to us. So she's in Charlottesville, which is too far away for me to work, but a lot of people do move back and forth from our area to theirs. And so when people in her office need someone in DC, she calls me immediately, or she tells them to call me. And so it's that one relationship that was formed years ago has led to a ton of business, and it's just really just a true friendship, not just business perspective. But
that's awesome. I love that. Next year's going to be a little bit different than what we've seen the last couple of years. What are you doing to prepare for that? Are you doing anything different looking into next year?
So I think for me, I've been through a really, what I would say is bad market. Like I went through the early 2010 age, 2008, 2009. And what I learned from that, I think, was that in real estate, you have to pivot. So there was a girl that was in my office at that time that had just gotten her license. And she told me this story that I will never, ever forget. And she was standing in line at the grocery store. And of course, she had done one of those seminars where they say, like, pass your business card out to everyone, wear your name tag everywhere, all of that. And she was talking to a friend in the grocery store line, and she said, oh, what have you been up to? And she said, I just got my real estate license. And a lady in front of them turned around and says, oh my gosh, it's the worst time of the year, the worst time ever to get your real estate license. And she looked at her and didn't skip a beat and said, I know, no one is ever going to buy or sell another house again. And it just stuck with me, because the matter is, People don't move because the market's good. People don't move because the market's bad. People move because they need to move. Like jobs happen, babies happen, downsizing happens. And so when you realize that the meat of real estate is based on people and their lives, as opposed to whatever the market is doing or interest rates or days on market, none of that stuff matters to a buyer. And so when you keep that in mind and you remember why we do what we do, it's no different than any other market. You just prepare to work with the people that are needing to move. And I think that if you build your business that way, no matter what the market does, you're going to be busy.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. There's something to be said for there's a lot to be said for mindset and just believing you're going to win and doing the things that you need to. There's also something to be said for being too dumb to know any better. And just, I didn't know it was a bad market. So I just kept dialing the phone or making contacts or reaching out or trying to serve people and just doing the best job that you possibly can and ignoring the fact that it's maybe a down market. So I think there's a lot to that.
I think one of the keys to it is you have to find out it's always a good time for someone to transact in some way. So whether that be in the last market when things were down, we had a lot of short sales and foreclosures in our market. So it was actually an excellent time for investors to pick up long-term buy and holds because our rental market was very strong and interest rates were still very reasonable. And so people were able to park money in a home that might be undervalued and just sit on it. And those people that did that in those years in the DC area made a killing in the last 5 years because they sat on a home and turned it around for a $300,000-$400,000 profit like 10 years later. There's no investment account you can put money in that does that. So you have to study the market and be knowledgeable about what you're doing, I think, and find where those pockets are that are successful. So for me, for 2023, I'm looking at in our area, our rental market is super strong and it's super expensive. And so we actually have a great opportunity right now for first-time home buyers. Even though interest rates are high, the competition has gone away from what it was. So we had last year, a first-time buyer was very challenged because they didn't have cash to compete. They didn't have the ability to waive inspections and things like that. Whereas now we can go in and give them a little bit of breathing room. And as long as they can afford the payment, which in a lot of cases is still less than they're paying in rent or at least the same, it makes sense. So that's what I'm looking to for 2023 in our market is focusing on those clients because I feel like there's some opportunity there.
I think that's great. And I think lenders are getting more and more creative with buy down products. Now there's a 3-2-1 buy down product. There's so many things out there to help people afford the rate and really just survive the rate, maybe in some cases, until 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we're going to have a different mortgage rate environment. My wife laughs at me, she's poking me, that I don't know if we've ever had a mortgage for more than 2 years. Yeah. Because we either move incredibly often or bought a house at 8 and then refinanced it at like 6.5 and refinanced it at 5 and then so on and so forth. So fine.
And another thing too, I think a lot of people caution with telling people they can refinance later because someone like me who went through the market when things did not get better for a long time, prices did not go up for a long time. Also talking to people about with a 2-1 buy down, the great thing about a product like that is you know what that third year payment is and you have to qualify based on that third year payment. So you're not getting in over your head. It's a number that you're comfortable with and you have time to prepare for. And in our market, we have a lot of government jobs. So we have people that have scheduled increases with their salaries just on the table. They are scheduled to get X amount year over year. So they know that first year payment is this, and then it goes up to this, and then it goes up to this, and they're prepared for it 2 years in advance. Good. There's a lot of, I think, education for especially a first-time buyer that can get them in comfortably, but doesn't put them in a bind later where they're like what happened in 2008, 2009, where people got in super low payments and then weren't prepared for adjustable rates or what have you.
Well, and it sounds like this is so smart that you're advising people because that's what we do. And hey, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Well, we can qualify for this. Okay, awesome. That does not mean you should buy that house or that you should spend every last dollar you can. Let's make sure we're prepared for a downturn or prepared for vacation, travel, having a life.
If you look at it like you're building a business and a career, not just a transaction, doing this one transaction, and you do so much business by repeat and referral, you have to take care of your clients and advise them properly. You can't make decisions for them, but but my goal is to give them all of the information and education that I can give them to empower them to make the right decision for them. And like in last year's market, I had quite a few clients that I'd say I told them not to buy a particular house, but I laid out all the pros and cons of certain ones and said, hey, like good example, there was one house that was a multiple offer situation. It was listed with a discount broker. The seller was basically doing a for sale by owner because he was touring us through the house and telling us all the projects that he did on his own, including some electrical work. And I told my clients, I said, if it were me, this is not the house I would overbid on. And this is definitely not the house I would waive an inspection on, because he just told you that he did a lot of work on his own and he is not an electrician by trade. So that's just one piece of who knows what else is done in this house. You need to think about that going forward. You're a first time buyer. What are your cash reserves? What happens if you get into this house and there are issues? And they put an offer, but it wasn't a ridiculous offer. They wanted to maintain their inspection and they didn't get the house. And they honestly felt okay about it because they felt like it was the right decision on that particular home. So just kind of preparing people and helping them understand the process is so empowering, and it helps them long-term down the road be successful so that they can not be underwater 10 years later when they go to sell that house, or 5 years, or what have you.
That's good. Well, helping you want to be able to advise people, and it sounds like you are, which is amazing, where they feel like they win either way. If you get the house, they won because they made an offer that they felt great about. And if they don't get it, then they won because they made an offer they felt great about. So
right.
Either way.
100% true.
Either way, that's amazing. Dan, you've been terrific. It's been delightful talking to you. Any parting thoughts or anything you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
No, I would say if you're a realtor watching this, like just know that the market is like a roller coaster. It goes up and down all the time. And part of what has made me successful, I think, for so long in real estate is understanding that you can't get too high with the highs or too low with the lows. It all just kind of goes. And that's something that as a new realtor, I really didn't understand. And having been in it so long now, I have just a little more go with the flow personality.
That's awesome. And that is our identity can't be based in our work and in the economy and what a real estate business is going to look like. There are much bigger fish to fry, much bigger things going on in the world where identity should be kept. That's awesome. Deanne, so for anybody watching that is moving to DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and or you've got clients that are, then we'll include ways to connect with Deanne in the description so you can find out how to reach out to her. And same for Dallas. If you got anybody moving to Dallas, then would love to serve them. So thanks so much for joining me today. You're awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Have a great day.